Hello.
Okay. So I want to welcome Daniel here. So I think like we all know Daniel, like because of like the Franky Banky character you have introduced, like of which I am a big fan of the character. So how did this character come to your mind, Daniel?
How did the character come to mind? You know what? Unfortunately, I have a boring answer. Oh, first, thank you for welcoming me. And thank you for having me on. Sorry, my brain goes like this all of the time. Unfortunately, I have a boring answer of how Franky Banky came to be. Um, I guess it would start sometime in the 1990s when, the internet first came to be, or a few years later. And, if I'm not sure how young you are, if you're even born at that time, but in the early days of the internet, of the web, when e-commerce was all the rage, which is now all the rage thanks to COVID. But yeah, so still have a friend over in Europe who asked me to design a cartoon character for a shopping website he was going to start up. And he wanted a fox character. And unfortunately, I had such a hard time drawing a fox. I couldn't design a fox. But his project didn't end up happening. But for a few years, I kept up with the challenge. I have to draw this fox character. I have to draw a fox character. Had the toughest time. And then one night, I'm just doodling, drawing, and okay, let me give this fox character a try again. And poof, he just came out of nowhere. I wanted to do something different, tried it, and he's like, hey, that's awesome. So that's how Franky Banky. So that's part one of my answer. Part two, so after I started my podcast back in 2007, no, there were comics that I drew, but I wanted something more established, more official. And then I went back to this fox character that I drew. I thought, you know what? I can picture him being the stuttering fox, character for my comics. And that's pretty much how he was born. The only thing is I didn't have a name for him. And so like the design, it was a hard time for me to find a name. I thought Francis. I thought, Francis Fox. I'm sure that's been done before. I thought Fizz at one point, which makes no sense. Nothing really jumped out until one night, my niece, who was 3 years old at the time, I believe she was 3, and she was learning rhyming words in school. And she was introduced to a family friend, and his name was Frank.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but she burst out laughing and she said, Franky Banky, Franky Banky.
Okay.
And right then I said, that's the name.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So why is it a fox? Like not a tiger or not like elephant or something else? Why it's only a fox?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Why is a fox? Just like I said, in the beginning, I had a friend that needed a fox for his shopping cart company that had, that they wanted a fox. So there is no rhyme or reason to me choosing a fox as a stuttering character. It was more like, hey, I really like the look of this of this fox design. And then I'll share a little bit of a secret. Well, now it's going to be open up to the whole world. A secret where when I first drew Franky Banky, he looked like this. Wait, I have my book with me right now. Here we go. I'm not sure if it's going to show up. So this is the very first drawing of Franky Banky. And,
Really,
sorry?
I'm saying it's really very awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I originally drew him without a mouth for some reason, and he looks a little bit kind of scared. So every time I kept drawing him, he gave me this impression of a worried person. And I thought, I'm being very careful with how I describe this. It's not what you may think that I'm about to say. I thought that having this, social anxiety kind of anxiety caused by the negative reactions that he got from his stuttering, or stammering, as you say in India. I thought that was like a nice fit, but that's why I draw Franky Banky in having a positive attitude towards the stuttering, a positive outlook, because that's what the whole, I guess, branding around Franky Banky is. Yet, like all of us, he still suffers from all those negative thoughts that we have in our heads, from way back years ago, when people, gave us that negative reaction. But really, there is no rhyme or reason, why he's a fox. I just chose one day, let me see what character I can design. Another thing is, I'm not very good at drawing people. There are times that I regret, maybe I shouldn't have gone with an animal character, maybe a person character would have been more effective. But so far, so good. People like Franky Banky. So I think he's going to stay.
Absolutely. I really love Franky Banky. Okay, and so how you draw this like Franky Banky? You use some software or doodling or something by hand you draw? Like how you make this?
Yeah. How do I make it? Well, I'm older, so I'm from the Gen X days. So,
Okay.
but I'm Gen X, yet I'm very technical. So, to be honest, because I grew up drawing with paper and pencil, that's how I draw. Paper, pencil, then I go over it with marker, then I scan, then I erase the pencil, then I scan, and then I use Photoshop to, clean things up. But I also use my iPad sometimes to draw quick drawings for social media, for the Stuttering School Facebook page and what have you, because the process works a lot faster. And then also I don't have to worry too much about getting paint, messed all over the place and all of that stuff. So really, I use both. And I seem to be very slowly transitioning over to the iPad more to draw. But I love the tactile feeling of pencil and paper and, the eraser and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel. I'm just going through the website, stuttering is cool. So I just get to know about the TI-GER analogy. So would you like to explain, what is the TI-GER analogy?
Yeah. Give me a second while I take a drink.
Yeah, sure.
Because I have such a dry mouth right now. So the tiger analogy was actually invented by a friend of mine who makes an appearance throughout my book. I mentioned him many times in the book, Dr. Greg Snyder. He also stutters, and he's a stuttering researcher in the United States. And one day he noticed he was at the zoo, at a zoo where if you paid, you can pay a fee and they'll let you play with the baby tigers, believe it or not. I guess they're safe enough for anybody. Just walk in and, hey, let's play. And he noticed every time he turned his back on a baby tiger, the baby tiger would try to pounce on him and take him down. But when he faced the tigers, they would, sit and behave and they wouldn't do anything. So that made him realize, this works just like stuttering, that if the tiger represents stuttering, then when you turn your back on stuttering, so be it switching your words, avoiding social situations, or even denying that you stutter, no, I don't stutter, I'm just going to switch words, or things like that, then stuttering, in other words, will pounce on you. It's going to take over. It's going to take control over you. But when you face your fears of stuttering openly, getting that negative reactions that we always get for the most part, then the tiger backs down. You have more control over your life. You can stutter on your terms, your own terms, and then all of a sudden you start showing people your tiger. You're showing off your tiger. The tiger's on its leash. It's behaving, and then that's when you start disclosing your stuttering, telling people, yeah, I stutter, and there's no big deal. And what I've noticed, especially in the early days of my podcast, when I wasn't used to the idea of telling people that I stuttered, I've noticed that when you do tell people that you stutter, you create this, or people see you in a more positive light, because you're okay with your stuttering enough and brave enough to stutter openly in front of people. So that's what that whole tiger analogy is all about, and that's the tiger right there on the wall there. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. No. There is a rhyme or reason why it's a tiger character. But going back to the design of Franky Banky, yeah, foxes are orange. They tend to be orange. So is a tiger. So I got to figure out how do I, if I ever do color comics, how do I, because they're both, orange. But fortunately, there are many different types of species of fox around the world. There's even a black fox. So it's a good thing I made him into a black fox. So, phew. Yeah.
Okay. So, like you have just told, when we say a person that I stutter, like before like starting a conversation or something, so it really helps us a lot. I too did it when we use the batches, in pizza we are having a batches, a stammer with love and all. So I do feel like this thing really helps. So I do agree with you on this. To telling a person, it really helps us a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So now coming to your journey, you have started social, and how this started, Stutter Social you started.
Yeah, Stutter Social. I'm so glad that we started Stutter Social. Excuse me again.
Yeah, yeah.
This is so embarrassing. Yeah, Stutter Social started in 2011. Long story short, I was at the National Stuttering Association conference in the United States, and I made a new friend there, David Resnick. We both shared the same experience, history, interest in digital technology, even the professional history, the professional work that we do in digital technology. And he already had a conversation with somebody else, Dr. Mitch Trishon. So the reason why I mention these names because we're the co-founders. So Mitch, he also stutters. His specialty in the research that he does into stuttering is in the effectiveness of support groups for people who stutter. So him and David, they were having this conversation and about, wouldn't it be great to continue the conference feel after the conference? So from Mitch's point of view, it was, group video chats would be a great thing for us to have, because we don't have to physically go to a place. Over here where we have snowstorms, it's difficult to drive in a snowstorm. I guess in India you have the rainy season, I believe. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. Or if there is no support group in your area, right? And then for David, his idea was, and I'm assuming this is the same thing at the TISA conferences. During a conference, you're at a hotel, or you travel someplace and you're with other people who stammer, and you're the majority, right? It's a fun time. It's this oasis of stuttering. We're the majority of people that stutter. And then once you leave, you go back to the real world. It's kind of depressing, And I've noticed that with other types of conferences, non-stuttering, where after a conference, everyone's depressed because they're having such a fun time. So he thought, something like group video chats would be that great way of continuing that conference feel and having the support. And this was 2011, and it was right after Google Plus launched.
Yeah.
And so we thought, okay, let's give it a try. And in fact, we first tried it with Skype group calls, and then we thought, hey, let's try with Google Plus. And the rest is history. It took off like a shot. And it's great to see other organizations doing the same thing, especially now during COVID, where you saw an explosion of Zoom chats and all that stuff. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I too believe the idea is really, really good, because I too just joined the TISA. So in my area, there was no self-help group. So what I also started doing a hangout call. So this idea really helping all over the world. So I want to especially thank you for starting with such a social. It's a inspiration for everyone. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting over time seeing the feedback that we got and seeing other tools that people are using around the world, like WhatsApp groups
Yeah.
and the Zoom chats. Even now, seeing like, for example, the NSA using the NSA chapters having karaoke, in their Zoom chats right now, or now with a virtual conference, right? Because now, because of COVID, everything's closing down, and it'll be interesting to see. Wow, this is going to be interesting. I've also dabbled a little bit in conducting live cartooning workshops. To see, hey, let's see what happens. So I had someone from Turkey, from Germany, the States, Canada, join in. It's a lot of fun, this digital technology that can really erase geographical distances.
Absolutely.
And it was really cool in some Stutter Socials where it's nighttime where I am, but I could see the sunrise in someone's window, like as it rises. It's very, very cool. So, yeah.
Okay. So it's really very interesting. Okay. So now coming on, what are the social challenges you faced because of stammering? Because there are always some of the challenges we always face in the society we live.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm asking about what are the social challenges you faced because of stammering?
Yeah, there's a lot. So if I understood correctly, the challenges that I've experienced with stuttering throughout my life, everything from answering, the question in class, do I dare raise my hand? Because not to incite fear to anyone that's watching, but when you're the one putting up your hand, suddenly the classroom feels like it's this giant classroom full of people, versus when you're not lifting up your hand, you're just among the crowd. Other challenges, or during food, it's that fear of judgment from others, even though I don't know them, and that stuff sticks. Like despite the fact that I've written a book about, excuse me, about hey, desensitize yourself, how to desensitize from all this stuff. The habits are still there from when I was a kid, because I've done this all the time. And I remember there was one story when I had a friend visit. He also stutters, and he was asked, and we were talking about, we had gone to a restaurant to order a burger, a fast food restaurant, and I complimented him. I said, "Oh, I noticed that you stuttered your order, but you didn't mention that you stuttered. You didn't disclose. You just plowed ahead, and the woman tried to finish her sentence. You just kept going, and it was like nothing happened." And he said, and he asked me then why. No, he said something like, "I feel like I don't need to disclose. I just stutter. That's just what I do. I don't need." And that really lit a light bulb in my head, going, "Holy crap, he's right." And that's when I realized, wow, I'm really I still fear the judgment of perfect strangers. Let's see what else. Other challenges would be conference calls at work, because they can't see me, doing my secondaries and all that stuff. So those fun moments where you're like, let me see if I could do this. So I'm in a room full of people. I'm the one chairing the conference call. Half the people I didn't mention that I stuttered. I didn't formally tell them that I stuttered. And a bunch of people on the call. I'm like, okay, just so you know, I speak with a stutter. It's not that the conference call hung up, but, things like that. Other challenges, it's mostly the typical stuff. I would have to say, when I'm speaking with people of authority, a lot of times, because, and what I mean is like on the job, for example, because I need to know that they could trust me. And because of all the misconceptions about stammering, it's like, oh, he's nervous, he's worried, he's a weak character, right? So I always try to slip in a relevant disclosure of my stuttering. So that's a challenge in itself, like how to do it so gracefully, with a smile, not make the other person feel uncomfortable. Oh no, did I make Dan feel uncomfortable? things like that. Yeah. So stuttering, yeah. So like a baby tiger that's very mischievous and very unpredictable. Stuttering is unpredictable.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
unpredictable. Like, what make it cool for you? Like, as you like say, the stuttering is cool. So, what make the stuttering cooler?
Yeah. What makes it cool is the fact that number one, I'm not the only one. There are millions of others who stammer around the
Okay.
world. Number two, like I've mentioned earlier, I've learned that when you mention that you stutter, um, the look in people's eyes, oh, wow, you're so, like I was told, you're so brave, you're so awesome, you're so courageous for, um, because what I'm assuming is happening is the person who's never stuttered before, they're thinking, wow, I don't even think I could go walk around outside if I stuttered. Um, and so they see us as, wow, we're so brave, this and this, and that feels good. Like that feels good. Now, mind you, um, what's not cool is the negative feedback that we get, the misconceptions about stuttering. What's not cool is, the fact that it's very hard. It can be hard for those of us who stutter a lot, like with a higher volume, to find a job. You never know. Did I not get the job because of my stammering, or did I not get the job because someone else just had more skills, than I did? Um, uh, yeah. So that's what makes stuttering cool, especially, and going back to Stutter Social and the support groups and associations like TISA and associations like the NSA, the CSA in Canada, the ABC. Um, it's that when you have that support group and you're sharing each other's experiences that are so common, like you grow up thinking, I'm the only one that's coming up with all of these tricks to switch words, trick people into talking for us. I'm the only one that's being laughed at. I'm the only one that's feeling awkward or feeling inferior. But the reality is, when you meet others who stutter, you're like, whoa, it's not unique. It's you understand me. And that's what makes it cool. Because especially when you start encouraging each other, you start making jokes about stuttering with each other, and then you meet up in person, right? It's a big part. Like I've seen the pictures from the TISA meetups and the conferences. I'm like, I gotta go there. So that's what makes it cool. I know it's a very controversial thing to say, stuttering is cool, uh, because I mean, really, it's not, right? But it's only because we're in a society that being different is looked down upon, yet praised at the same time. So I think that's where the coolness comes in. Like once you show the people that you're disclosing to that you're okay with their stuttering, then they're okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Daniel. I feel like the stuttering is cool because it gives us a chance, to show the world the importance of patience. Because like the world around us is not much patient. So
That is so
like
true.
so we can at least we can teach the world like okay the importance of patience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I always come across, on my stuttering surfing that I do all over the web in the stuttering community. Every so often, it comes up where someone has written something like, I'm teaching people how to listen. We're the most patient listeners because we know what it's like. Things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So like do you think like the scamming make a person creative also like because we just kept like alone like in our childhood like I too like kept alone so we are having so many creative ideas in our brain. So do you feel like it like uh, a person who stammer also very creative?
I think there's a car accident happening outside of your place. you know, do I think you know what you raise an excellent point. I never really thought of that, because being alone all the time growing up, or and then also being creative in how to avoid saying such words and such like that. Or even creative in how to switch words. um, You know what? I don't see why not. Like even looking at the ISED online conference, International Stuttering Awareness Day online conference. There we go. There's a section on artworks, like, or creativity, where people are submitting videos and poems, songs. For me, comics. And thanks to digital tools like YouTube, every smartphone has a camera. There are millions of videos of people who stammer, in all different languages. Could they? I don't see why not. Often what I talk about in my workshops about cartooning is the idea of, excuse me, having a creative outlet to make sense of your feelings around your speech. What I do in my creative workshop, because it's cartooning, so we draw comics, we draw a comic of a real stuttering situation that we've experienced, and we change the ending to be the opposite, and then see how that feels and all that stuff. Yeah, there's lots of people I know who stutter, who are musicians, writers, or where they become a writer because they feel that, oh, I can't stutter on the job. Let me find a job that doesn't involve talking, which is funny because jobs always involve talking, no matter what. Yeah. Are you creative yourself? Do you have a creative outlet?
Like I currently I'm like doing my like fashion technology, so I works like for like fashion kind of things, like garments and all. So this is a thing which is also a part of a creative things also only. So I just met many people like who are like very creative. So this question come to my mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, Daniel, like how you get the inspiration for like the comic you make, the characters you make, like from where you get the inspiration for that?
Yeah. Again, I have another boring answer for this really good question, though. Where do I get it? It depends. I get it from many different places. So sometimes, believe it or not, an idea just pops in my head. I could be on a walk, taking a shower, whatever. Poof! Hey, that will make a funny story. A lot of my ideas come from my own experiences. So in my book, for example, there are some where I just, I change the ending to make it more funny. What else would there be? A lot of times I get even ideas from other places, like other comics, other movies, TV shows, what have you. And it would spark an idea. Hey, I wonder what would happen if that character stuttered. So I would take that situation, put Franky Banky in it, and then see, excuse me, what goes on. A lot of times in the Franky Banky comics, ideas come from other people's stuttering experiences or my own. Like the mask one. There's a comic I posted recently about stuttering while wearing a mask while grocery shopping. People can't tell that you're even trying to talk. So things like that. And then what I'm also working on now is a graphic novel, a Franky Banky and TI-GER graphic novel, where my aim is he just happens to stutter. A protagonist who happens to stutter. So we'll take, any Marvel movie. Let's pretend Iron Man stuttered. What if, he stuttered? So something where, yeah. So really, my ideas come from so many different places, and that's typically how creativity seems to work. You can get ideas from walking out in nature. You see like a rabbit hop around, and it gives you an idea. Hey, what if the rabbit slammed himself into the tree? That would be hilarious if I drew a comic. And or he slams into the tree and then his stammering ends. For a day. What would happen? Things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel, for sharing this. Like, I'm also like waiting for that book which you're making. Like, okay. So
it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while because that plot keeps getting longer and longer. I'm like, oh boy, you gotta keep it short.
Okay. So like in TISA, we just usually talk about the acceptance, like the acceptance of stammering. So like, what are your opinion about the acceptance?
Yeah, acceptance is the greatest thing to ever happen to me. One of the greatest things to happen, because what happened to me was in 2007. So I started my podcast in November of that year, and before that, so I'd say September. So before September in that year, actually, since I was born, up until September 2007. When I always thought stuttering was bad, something to hide, something to be ashamed about. When I learned thanks to the internet, again, did digital tools and support systems and all that stuff, hearing from others who stutter saying, I just tell people that I stutter. Like that idea alone blew my mind. It made me go, what? You could tell people that you stutter? I was learning about people who have friends who stutter, like people who stutter with friends who stutter. And I'm like, what? That's what I needed. Because the year before, I had been searching for speech therapy again. And I thought, but something stopped me. I'm like, but I need something more. I don't know what it is. And it seemed a little strange. And it was that I needed that support system. And so acceptance, I know, is a very controversial word because it has two different meanings, right? Or two different interpretations. It could be interpreted as, fine, I accept that I'm stuttering, take over my life. I'm not even going to bother to try. Or it could mean stuttering is just something that I do, whatever. Like, it could be a weight problem, it could be a height problem, it could be another, it could be a health issue that I have, like a chronic health issue, or it could be something else. Stuttering just happens to be my thing. I'm not going to let it stop me just because I stutter. I just stutter, dude. It's fine. Don't worry. And it opens up conversations. Oh yeah, I have a brother who stuttered when he was a kid. He used to put pebbles in his rocks. Don't do that. You're going to swallow them, then you'll choke. Things like that. And what I've learned in just simply accepting it, your life gets better, right? Because you're happier. You're not bothered. Like, you have more space in your head to be bothered about other stuff, versus something that really you only have a limited amount of control over. There is something, I was listening to a podcast, nothing to do with stuttering. They were talking about ACT, acceptance commitment therapy. And they were interviewing the guy who invented it. And he was saying, even in psychology circles, the term acceptance has its misinterpretations. And he was saying the exact same thing. Some people see it as resignation. Other people see it as, bring it on, I'm going to face my fears, right? So that's what acceptance, we just got to find another word for it. For years, I've been trying to find that other word. Just can't find it. So I think I could just say for now, okay with it. Be okay with it instead of stuttering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we say, like, it's okay to stammer. Because, like, we are not doing, like, any crime or something. We are just stammering, and it's not a crime.
Yeah. And could you imagine if it was a crime? Then by all means hide it.
Okay. So, you might also feel like sometimes it's very difficult to aware people. Like, we try, like, to aware people about stammering and all, but like the people like always see it as a negative thing. It's how, like, what do you think, like, how we can aware the people? Like, no, like, it's nothing bad with stammering.
Yeah. Going back to creativity and back to digital tools that anybody can use, right? To a certain degree. I don't know how people can use Snapchat, but we all have the ability, like, it's up to us who stammer, to spread awareness, because no one's going to do it for us, because we're the experts in what it feels like to stutter. We're the experts in what it feels like when someone's making the faces, or they're trying to finish our sentences, things like that. So, and we're the ones that are passionate in that. There are people who don't stutter that would help us, sure, but for the most part, it's us. What I enjoy seeing are people that get outside of the stuttering world, or the stuttering fishbowl that I call it, and into the world to spread awareness. Be it like there's a festival going on, And you know how they have booths all over the place? So here's a booth. It's like an NSA booth. Here it's a TISA booth or a BSA booth. Everything from, you tell your family and friends, to a plan that I have with my Stutters Cool book. I'm planning, my plan with my book, the next book, the graphic novel that I'm writing, is more out of awareness, to spread awareness, take him out of the stuttering fishbowl into the world of, hey, here's a character who stutters. He just happens to stutter, but he's competent. He's a leader. He solves mysteries, whatever. So I'm looking at creating a frankybanky.com website for the rest of the world. Because if I'm trying to create awareness, I can't create it with a website called Stuttering's Cool, I think, because it kind of, it works within the stuttering community, but outside in the world, it erases below the waterline of the iceberg, the stuttering iceberg, right? So long story short, use the talents that you have, that anybody can spread awareness, whether it's through song, through pamphlets, through talking in schools and all of that stuff. You never know who you're going to touch, who you're going to, what's the word I'm thinking of? Motivate? Encourage, motivate, into, hey, if he can stammer, then so can I, That's what I like about the TI-GER character, right? For us, he represents stuttering, but for other people who don't stutter, he can represent another challenge in their lives.
Absolutely.
Right? So, you have the tools, do it. You have the talent, you have the passion. Definitely, create a. I mean, I hope that answers your question. It's just tell one person at a time, I guess.
Okay, thanks for this answer. This is really, I like this answer. Like, through our creative ways, we can encourage or motivate people to know, to aware people about the stammering. Okay,
Yeah.
so what do you think about the interviews and the stammering? That's a deadly combination for people always.
Even for people who don't stutter, job interviews are nerve-wracking. They're awful. Job interviews, you know what? They're a great example of in life, there are things we have control over, things life we don't have control over. And that's things like, I don't have any control over what that potential employer thinks of of my character, of my stammering, for example. That person may be thinking, I can't hire this person because I can't have him stuttering on the phone. I don't think I can have him talking to clients or things like that. But I have no way of knowing that. I have no way of knowing if that person is thinking, well, look at all these skills. Like, I gotta hire this person. Awesome. I really hope that we hire this person. I have 15 other interviews to do, but this was definitely my first choice. I have no idea. Fortunately, we have things that are under our control. And that's things like, telling them, oh, by the way, I just happen to stutter. It's never, what I usually say is I inform them, truthfully, that it's never, my stutter has never gotten in the way of my job performance. And then, so there's what we can't control, and what we can influence. So in my responses in job interviews, I ensure that I include examples where I've spoken to people at work, where I've spoken to clients, vendors, whatever it is, to show, oh, he's spoken to other clients. So it's a way of saying, yes, I can. It's a way of backing up my claim of saying stuttering never got in the way by saying, I've spoken to people, right? Another thing you can do is, there's often a question that pops up in stammering groups across the internet. Do you mention stammering in your cover letters or your resumes or your LinkedIn? That's a personal preference. What I've always, and I think I wrote in my book too, where I wrote, you can even show like you don't need to mention stammering, but you could show things like if you are a leader of a support group, if you've taken Toastmasters group, right? It shows, oh, this guy's speaking, right? Obviously, it's not an issue. Speaking, right? So you're proving it, right? It's things like that. Employers love leaders, people who take charge. So if you're involved with, say, TSAT, right, you can even mention that, right? It's my volunteer experience with the Indian Stammering Association. So you've mentioned stammering, right? But it's nothing like, oh, by the way, I stutter. It's like, but what does that have to do with your skills and what I need you to do on the job? And then in the end, yes, there is a chance, someone else will get the job, but not necessarily because of your stammering. But I know people, who have a high volume of stuttering, and they do legitimately. I don't blame them to think, I don't know. I think my stuttering is because like I get that fourth interview, they really interested, but someone else gets it. The thing is to be aware that I know many people who don't stutter. The exact same thing. They get that fourth interview, they don't get the job. Another like 30 interviews later, like job interviews, separate places, they're getting the second, third, fourth interview, they don't get the job. So it's not necessarily a maybe, right? Because we never know, right? Unless they flat out, in a job interview, and they would say, "No, has your stuttering ever?" Now, in some countries, it's illegal to ask that, but should it come up, here is your chance to say, yeah, I know that, it may appear, maybe you don't say it that way. You can say, no, it's never gone in the way a lot of people have been patient with me. And I just explain, here's what I do. And unfortunately, it's tailored to the individual. So I can't give you a formula because it's all down to your comfort level, of what to do. In the beginning, I tried different tactics, not disclosing in a job interview, disclosing in a job interview, and all that stuff. So it all depends on what you're most comfortable with. That's the important factor, because everyone's nervous in a job interview, and we know how nerves can fuel stuttering, right? And yes, it would be nice to be able to control as much as we can the thoughts that go in their mind, like, but in the end, because you want to appear confident, and unfortunately, stuttering is still seen as a sign of not having confidence,
Absolutely. Like I can conclude like we should like mainly focus on our skills, like rather than what we are speaking, rather than how we are speaking. Like we should concentrate on what, like
Yeah,
our skill set and all. We should not worry about.
exactly. Yeah. See, I think you should be writing a book about this too. Speaking of creativity.
What are your other hobbies, Daniel? Like, I know, like you make cartoons and all, like, but what are the other hobbies you really like to do?
Oh wow, I have too many, to be honest. What? It goes back to what you mentioned earlier about, being younger and, alone all the time. So I had a lot of time on my hands to try many different interests, and they've stuck with me. So I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy nature walks. I enjoy traveling, when I can. Reading. Lately, I've been reading a lot of nonfiction. Before it was all fiction books. I enjoy reading a lot of graphic novels. And here's my guilty pleasure. I like reading graphic novels for kids. They're a lot more fun and uplifting than the ones for adults, because they tend to be darker, because they talk about people's horrible experiences, right? And what else do I enjoy doing? Oh, listening to music, listening to public broadcasters from around the world to get a different perspective from over here, from the North American perspective. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that I do, which is partially why it's taking a long time for this book to be made, this next book. Yeah.
Thanks for like sharing your hobbies. Like I will ask from Dhruv. Dhruv, do you want to ask something from Daniel?
Hi guys.
Hello.
I've been listening to the conversation. So, what one kind of I guess personal comment to have, and I guess a question that you could sort of address perhaps is
Mhm.
for myself, and I've seen this with other people as well. That I think so. When I first heard about acceptance, I loved it. I was like, wow, I accept that, like my stuttering, and it's fantastic. Um, and then I think for a while, but what happened then was I began to sort of like really accept my blocks, you know,
Mm.
like I'm in this massive block, I'm putting my head down and stuff, but I'm like, like it's okay to stutter, so what I'm doing is okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I
And
think
it's
I'm,
such a cool feeling, right? Like you're letting that stutter out. You're not forcing that energy back in, right?
yeah,
Yeah. But sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like it's a fantastic feeling. And I think though, like, but then at the same time, I think where I am now, I kind of realize that like, so while of course it's okay to stutter, like I know that from the bottom of my heart, but then at the same time, I know that there's a way to stutter more easily,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of now like balancing that between, yeah, it's okay to stutter, and now how can I really get out my true stuttering? Because I think that my like behaviors that I've been doing, like putting my head down and sort of avoiding eye contact and all that stuff, like that's all other stuff that I've learned that's sort of not
Hmm.
really like maybe you've heard of the term clean stuttering. I don't know if you've heard that,
Do you
but
mean what I've heard was graceful stuttering? Like, is that the same thing? Like where you're stuttering gracefully? Yeah, there's another way
sure.
of putting it. Is that what you mean? So instead of this big train wreck out of control, it's more like okay, I'm in control. I'm just going to let the stutter out. It's like the whole voluntary stuttering is one technique of doing that. Like using these speech tools, like to gain that more control over your mouth. You're not hiding the stuttering, but you're still letting it out. Like, is that what you mean?
True. Yeah. So like that's kind of like I think kind of what I mean. But I think sometimes also like for me, I've kind of used some of these tools to further hide my stuttering. So for example, I've used like bouncing, for example, like bouncing or prolongation, or even like voluntary stuttering, to sort of still in a way suppress my real stuttering. And to be honest, I
Mhm.
still don't know what my real stuttering is. Uh,
Yeah, it's like I don't recognize it anymore. No.
yeah. But like some moments when I'm just like trying like not to sort of just hide it all, and also just trying to be very aware of what's going on and not rush and just be
Yeah.
very mindful. I like feel myself sort of um, doing things that I know are not connected with my speaking. Like I was saying, like I'm closing
Mm.
my eyes, like that's not actually stuttering. It's like like you were saying, a secondary
So it's
behavior.
not a secondary, or you're just saying, let me just look around, like look away so I can have my moment. What you're talking about really is something that I've had a conversation with an SLP recently, and he was saying, and we were talking about, we seem to have these two camps of stuttering thought on the internet, where it's like, stutter openly. It is wrong to fear stuttering. It is wrong to hide your stuttering. Oh, you're covert. That's wrong. Then you have the other campus saying it is wrong to stutter openly. You must control your speech. Practice every day, and all that stuff. If you're accepting it, you have defeated. Or you're defeated, right? And then my friend SP was saying there's no middle. No, he says nobody talks about the middle ground. There is a middle ground, and so what you're talking about is what I talked about earlier. Um, Back to that burger joint, that burger story, where it's like, oh, I'm still fearing the judgment of strangers, right? Um, we're human, right? And it's okay. So my SP friend was saying, it's okay to, you're not always going to be Mr. Superman that's going to, who's fearless, absolutely fearless with the stuttering. I mean, in my thinking, old habits die really hard, right, over the years, right? The world still doesn't understand stuttering, right? People understand wheelchairs because they could see it, but we still don't understand stutter, or not we, but, we still need the awareness, right? So there's still that fear, and it's okay. It's okay to go covert once in a while. It's okay if, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just going to switch, right? Like it's funny how, we grew up, in the covert days, beating ourselves over the head. Oh, I stuttered. And then once we learn about acceptance, being open, being, overt about it, it's like, oh, I hid. There's no middle ground of, what? I forgive myself for that. I'm going to try next time, right? And that's something that I've learned today, especially the last, I can't do the math in my head, X number of years since 2007, doing my podcast and now my book, where I find myself thinking, I cannot be covert because then I'm being a big hypocrite. So not only am I fearing the judgment of strangers, I'm fearing the judgment of, people that read my book, people, that like Franky Banky, which is a great way. It's another way of saying, I only answer to myself. Like if I'm going to be covert, then it's my own fault for doing it. But I forgot about the fact that I'm only human, and you're human. Everybody is human, and it's okay to, once in a while, yeah, I'm gonna use these tools so I can control myself, because I'm speaking to this angry CEO who's demanding answers now, right? He doesn't want, to sit and wait because nobody has patience anymore. Yeah, those situations, I'll switch, I'll hide, I'll whatever, just get off my back, right? Or here's the answer you need. Other situations, hey, I just bought a boat the other day, or whatever, the water cooler. I would say, as long as you're fully mindful, right, of why you're hiding in that moment, take those little steps out of the comfort zone. You know what? I'm not going to use a speech tool, clean stuttering is not necessarily covert stuttering. It's not necessary. I mean, I know there's that fine line between. I had a conversation with somebody else saying, how she was feeling that acceptance is another way of saying no. If she wants to use speech tools, it's another way of saying stuttering is bad. So how could she say that she accepted her stuttering? It's quite the mind bend, right? Quite the philosophical conversation, which I don't have the answers to, right? But I think we're never fearless. Soldiers are never like, I'm just going to walk into a war zone. I don't care. That doesn't happen, right? I had another conversation with a friend who was saying even superheroes, right? They have their vulnerabilities. They have their moments of, okay, I need to step away and I need to stop and think, or, things like that. So, yeah. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah.
Because we can go on for hours about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we like have a saying in TISA that I think the founder of TISA coined, Dr. Sachin. He says, like, accept stammering, but don't accept poor communication.
I like that one. Yeah, because that goes back to our earlier conversation. It's not how you say it; it's what you say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. And I think at times, I think the point I was making was like, good communication at times is also how you say it. With the eye contact, your tone, and
tone for sure. Tone for sure. Yeah, the eye contact. The eye contact is eye contact creates that connection, right? Like regardless of stuttering, it makes that connection, because when somebody looks away, it implies, what is that person trying to hide? Are they lying, right? And Mitch Trishon, made this excellent observation where he was saying, his theory is that when people that we speak to look away while we're in a stutter, they look away because maybe perhaps they recognize we're in a vulnerable moment, and they're giving us that privacy in that moment. It's a whole, like I said, I can go on for hours on this. It's more of it's kind of like a deeply philosophical question of, when you stutter as you maintain the eye contact, it's that vulnerable moment, you're sharing that vulnerability, and you make that even stronger connection with that person, which in the end is like, wow, this guy stuttered through and he didn't hide it. This person is very confident in his stuttering. So even though we're dying inside and we just want to hide, we're appearing, well, and he still talks, or she, if you're a woman, right? It works both ways. It's fascinating. And all this because simply the world doesn't have enough stuttering awareness yet. There will be a time, it could be 200 years from now, or it could be 20 days from now. Until that day happens, then we're struggling with all this stuff. We're wrestling with this idea of, I'm using speech tools, but have I used speech tools because I'm fearing judgment, or am I using speech tools or or communication techniques, such as disclosing the stuttering? Because I just want to explain why I'm talking like this. Or fascinating to me.
Yeah. Me too. I think it's fascinating. I think we can talk about this for hours. So I think I'll invite Bhupendra back. I don't know if I'm sure you're still here, but I think if you wanna, I don't know if you have any final questions or anything else that you wanted to discuss.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. I think my camera having some issue. I think I can't able to see. Okay, it's fine. So that's all question I want to ask from Daniel. I think the camera has some issue. Okay, now it's fine. Now okay.
Here we go. Hello, welcome back.
So I wanted to thank Daniel for to come here and share your views and everything. It's really very informative for me, and I just still remember your comments when I was in my 12th class and all. I usually go through your comments whenever I just get depressed now. I just see the Daniel made something he's showing that the when Fox is showing it's very cool. I just some comments, so that gives me okay, so I can still speak. It's a cooler thing. I shouldn't be worried about it much. So I want to thank you a lot for this.
Thank you.
And after watching the Stammering is cooler on all now, finally I understood. Okay, there's one more way to think about the Stammering. Okay, it can be cooler also. I always get depressed and all after this all, but
yeah, it's tough. Yeah, just what I was saying with to as long as we can forgive ourselves for being human, right? There's nothing wrong with being sad or fearful, scared, or angry at your stuttering, or even saying, I stuttered, right? As long as as long as you can forgive yourself, right? You have that self-love, right? Because we would never think the same thing of somebody else that would say, I stuttered that order. You say, it's okay, don't worry about it. Next time you'll try not stuttering. But for us, we're our worst critics. We're our harshest critics, right? So, but thank you for having me here. It was a lot of fun to be asked about, the origins of Franky Banky, his origin story. So, and TI-GER too.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Dhruv.
Thank you
for joining here.
Yeah.
So,
it was great, seeing you again, Daniel, and of course
you too. Yeah,
Bhupendra. It's always good to
here. In the last, I just asked Daniel to give one message to whoever is watching this, like a message to like a person who stammer. One message.
Let me choose. No. One message. That's a tough one. There are so many things I could say. You know what? I think it's what was already mentioned, that it doesn't matter how you say it. It's what you say. I have a Franky Banky comic where he's talking to a girl and he's stuttering, saying, "You have," and she's getting all excited. Oh, what's he gonna say? What's he gonna say? I have what? Is he gonna say beautiful? And he's worrying about it, going, "Oh no, I can't believe I'm stuttering." And then he goes, "You know what? So what? I stutter. You have beautiful eyes, right?" It doesn't matter how you say, right? He said you have beautiful eyes, right? So, yeah. Yeah, that would be my message. And find yourself a support group. Meet others who stutter. You have the whole world at your fingertips, really, Yeah. And then once this COVID's over, travel to a conference if you can. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that I want to like say to like the viewers, like the most important thing is to find a self-help group like around us, to get a support, to seek help. We should not confine us. Okay, like we are keeping the problem with us only. We should share, like, because when we share about the problems, then there's a solution. Like,
yeah. You've hit the nail right on the head with the support groups, right? Having friends who stutter, because they understand. So if you don't share it, right, you're not going to learn from each other, or because you never know who else you're going to inspire. Because all this came really from having spoken to others who stuttered, right? So, and now I'm learning from you guys and from everybody else around the world. It's awesome. That's why stuttering is cool.
Dhruv, Dhruv, do you want to give one message?
I think you guys covered it, but I'll just sort of re-emphasize that it's really okay to stutter, and lots of people do it around the world, like we see.
We're not the only ones.
Canada, yeah. So, smile, stutter. Oh, and there's a great saying that we say in TISA. It's "Haklao magar pyar se," which means stammer, but with love.
Oh, I like that one.
So it's
wow, nice. You guys have the best sayings. TISA is the leader in phrases about stammering. So good job. Nice. Stammer, but with love. I really like that.
Yeah. So thanks for joining.